Good evening. My name is Jay. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back to the show this evening for episode 177. I am so honored and so excited to welcome back one of the original men that I interviewed when I first launched Real Men Real Talk Raw back in 2018, Nathan Meola. Welcome to Real Men Real Talk Live, coming in from down under. We call it Australia. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Oh, I just can't help but smile when I hear your voice, and yeah, I appreciate being here as a bit of a full circle moment. So thank you.
You're welcome. And of course, we have Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Evis is going to jump in shortly. He's going to join us just a little bit late. He'll be right on time, divine time this evening. Welcome, viewers. Welcome back. We've been off on hiatus for about 3 weeks or so now, going through the holidays in the USA. But we're back this evening for episode 177. And tonight's topic is called The Dance of the Trickster. And one of the things that we do here on Real Men Real Talk Live is when we have a guest join us, as we have this evening. In our production meeting, we invite the guests to bring forward a potential topic that's dear to the heart or something that they may be navigating through in their own life. And so, in our meeting back on Monday, well, Tuesday for Nathan, that is, Nathan jumped in and said, let's talk about the trickster. And that was one that I really wasn't familiar with in the US. It's not something that we talk about in the same terms, perhaps the same title that we call the trickster. But Nathan, I want to invite you to kick us off, light us up, get us hot, and get the show going. Sharing from your perspective for a few moments here, what is the dance of the trickster mean for you, and how has that impacted your own journey? This thing we call life. And welcome back, my brother.
Thanks, Jay. I'm here in the Central Coast, New South Wales, and Australia, and the sun is shining very brightly, and I am present with this topic of the trickster, but also with this beginning moments of this show with you, Jay, and you, Jeff, and am engaging with the eternal dance, or how I sometimes describe as the wrestling on the inside, and that interplay is the dance between speaking for the sake of speaking, and also because there's a camera on my face and you've just asked me to talk and to speak and be here even before I know what to say. How could I know what to say? So I enter into this lightheartedly, and also deeply present with the the at times frustration of wanting to say something and having and the devotion to speaking what's real for me in the moment, and that can appear in many sorts of ways. I take this opportunity very gratefully to allow myself the space and time to sink in and settle in to this time that we have together, and to say hello to all the people out there, and also thank you and welcome. First of all, thank you. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. For many of us, I had to literally look it up and understand the true essence of the definition of what a trickster is. And Jeff, we both kind of looked at each other in a production meeting with a kind of like a days of confusion to an extent. But it appears to me as though since our meeting, you've had the opportunity to kind of dive into it. So, from your perspective, what does a trickster mean for you? And do you think you've ever shown up as a trickster in your life? You're muted.
Maybe I
Welcome
wasn't
back.
ready to speak.
Well, maybe that's part of being a trickster.
I really see my lips move and you don't hear anything.
There you go.
Earlier today, you sent me, what was that? The Google definition.
A few.
Yeah, a few of trickster. And one of the things that hit me or piqued my attention to it was the trickster being someone or not going with the status quo, upsetting things of the status quo. And then my answer to you was, well, aren't we all tricksters? When I look at it in our personal process, growing, going deeper within, connecting with the wounded child, what came to me was how we can, in order to move past things that we're really stuck in, is how we can trick ourselves to move through it. As far as using the trickster as a healing tool. And then I think in our production meeting, somebody said getting back to normal or something like that. And I said, define normal. And the way from your definition, the way I look at the trickster is someone who is pushing boundaries. And I don't mean our personal boundaries, but the old norms of the way things should be done, the way we're supposed to act. So we're pushing boundaries. It's someone who just is pushing the envelope in order for us to go deeper within ourselves, to learn more and to grow. And then also bringing to light what, quote unquote, you think is normal, and realize that normal is something that you define for yourself. I don't know if I'm making any sense about this, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it from a personal healing point of view.
Well, I would say that all healing is self-trickery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like the the jester, the fool, the one that points at the emperor and says, "Hey, the guy's naked over there." Yeah. Is the one that doesn't belong to any one place, and so therefore belongs to all places. It's found in any personal development or self-improvement, NLP, hypnosis, And then the common thread that runs through all of that is storytelling and story. And we find again that the trickster is the storyteller, the trickster is the shaman, the trickster is the magician. And just like that one that can point at the king there and say, hey, like, the greatest truth tellers in our culture seem to be the comedians. Comedians deal in truth, and also we acknowledge that that their craft and their mastery in the use of the word allows them to use words that in other contexts would be harmful, actually use those same words for healing. And so it's the levels of the game to hold intentions of healing while speaking words and taking actions that break the patterns of what society, culture, family, relationships, all those rules, agreed upon rules, to break out of those roles. And we think about somebody going through a healing process or a spiritual awakening process. For me, it was coming to terms with this skill that I had developed through my life of lying and being a very good liar. And how do I come to terms with that as I step forward and attempt to build a fulfilling life, a truthful life, and an honest life, while understanding deeply my ability to manipulate and propensity to manipulate. So, and then taking all of that and not denying it, but owning it, and then learning deeply about these archetypes. And trickster is an archetype, which means that what you said is that we are all tricksters. Yes, the trickster is within all of us, as is the king and the magician and the lover and all of the different archetypes. We are all things, in other words. And the trickster is the one that can pass between the worlds, who dances between the threshold, between this visible world and the invisible world. And this is also the definition of an elder, who is one who sits at the edge of the village with one foot in and one foot out, dancing between two worlds.
I love what you just shared. And Nathan, what struck me as I'm listening very closely to you is that when we met, actually it made it to the US back, I think about in 2018 or so. And we actually had the opportunity to physically meet, touch, hug, and share our love with one another on that visit. And I will always remember that. It just came up, our 5-year anniversary, I believe, just came up on social media memories, just I think last week or two. And that's what really brought me back to reaching out to you and renewing, reconnecting, because it's been some time since we have been talking with each other, communicating. However, I've been paying attention to you for the last year or two, really watching you closely, very intrigued. And what I like to share is I'd like to understand from your perspective. You started out as a transformational coach, if we want to put a title on it, and you made a conscious choice to step out of that arena of how you reach people, how you communicate with people, how you impact men and women's lives. And you made a conscious choice to go into a different place around storytelling. And I'm curious because you mentioned storytelling is part of the fabric, part of the world of a trickster. What have you learned about yourself and about others as you have shared these different stories, perhaps the storyteller that you've really embraced and become, what role has a trickster played for you in as a storyteller? And has it worked in your favor, or has it been a benefit, or has it become a burden in any way?
Jay, I could not possibly begin to answer those questions, considering there was so many all at once, and the trickster in me will just go on and speak and hope that something comes out, right, that answers some of those questions in some ways. But essentially, I went on, I started as a personal trainer, and personal training is a very non-subtle way of working with people. It's come to this facility and do the 10 push-ups and do the things and work with the program and come back time on time again over months and years and shift and change your body. Now, in order to change the body, to lose weight, to do any of that, something else needs to be going on the inside. Some other realm needs to be contacted to make that change. But as I felt the desire to reach towards more and more subtlety, and I started to work on deeper levels, I made the move from personal training to coaching, working with emotions and these sort of things, and opening up in that way. But the quest for subtlety didn't stop. So I continued to quest for more and more subtle ways to work with people. And as a coach, I had so much weight on myself and pressure and responsibility to work with these people, to dive into what was going on for them, to find out all the things, to ask the right questions, and to use these intellectual processes to affect some change inside them. And at some point I realized that I was just tricking people into believing something different to what they believed before. And NLP and these processes of hypnosis is essentially what it is teaching people how to trick themselves into change. It's saying you've got a story in you right now that's not working, and you've had it for a very long time. So instead of that story, drop that one and put this one on, and that one's going to be more helpful for your life, for the success that you want to create, etc. Yeah, or you're upset at your partner for this and that reason. Try this perspective on for size, and then see how that shifts things. And it does, and it shifts things if a person's able to successfully self-trick themselves. And so when I realized that, I thought, well, and I started to work with story and myth, and was working with men and grief as I was going through my own grieving process, and realized that instead of coming straight at the problem, that there was a more and more subtle way that I could work with people, and that involved actually a decision to stop helping people entirely and stop seeking to help people, and instead discover different ways of working with people where, owning the trickery, right? Owning the trickery and blasting away the stories, but not replacing them with new ones, giving them old, ancient stories to anchor themselves to, right? And my life just, it was way more effective to tell a story to somebody. It was way more effective. That there were no defenses I had to get around. It was much lighter for me to carry, to work with people in this way, and I found a natural gift for storytelling, and everyone, it seemed to just get straight to the heart of the matter, rather than creating more and more barriers to connection. So that search for subtlety continues to this day with me. And now sometimes I don't even tell a story with my words, or I use eye contact or touch or some other subtle way to. It's like when and I lived in the forest last year, and we studied a form of mentoring called coyote mentoring. And with coyote mentoring is trickster mentoring. You're working with kids, and a kid asks you, what bird is that? You don't just say, oh, that's a robin. You don't just answer the question. You ask a question back. What color is the bird? What kind of shape does the beak? You ask these questions that create curiosity in the child, and then eventually the child can use that to go and find the name of the bird. And then once they discover that themselves, then they've got it for good. So you ask a question, and if I go to answer the question directly, perhaps I missed something, Yeah, there's.
Jay, you're muted.
You can always create a story around that story that you just shared, right?
Yeah. Look, myths and stories teach us. There's a fundamental thing that listening to myths and story teaches is that the line between truth and lies is blurred. A myth, I tell you, an old Greek myth, the myth itself prevents you from believing that it's true. You know that it's not true, but at the same moment, you cannot just dismiss it as a meaningless story. You listen to it, and it enters in. You have, and we have, no defenses for story. And so it's very important which stories we allow inside our bodies. And we had storytellers to guide us in this. And these days, we still have storytellers, except they don't call themselves storytellers, and they don't serve the same function. They tell us, they cast spells and enchant us through very powerful messaging and means. And you can see some of that tricksterness.
Jeff Pisano, what do you make of what Nathan has just shared here? Are you able to relate to it? Have you ever sat in a room of a storyteller or a trickster, or have you ever felt like you yourself have a greater understanding now of what a trickster is? How often have you shown up as a trickster in your own life?
Well, what I heard Nathan say is, if we're telling stories, what are the stories and the lies we're telling ourselves about who we are? That's what popped into my my consciousness. What are the lies that we continually tell ourselves? What are the stories that we continually tell ourselves about ourselves that we have learned and been conditioned and programmed with? That's what popped into my head when I was listening to you.
Okay, let's look at that for a second. Someone comes to you, a friend, and says, I'm a failure because of this, whatever. And as a friend, you want to help that person. So you say, no, you're not. No, you're not. That's not true. Look at your life. Look at look at what you've done. Look at how far you've come. Let them give you this new perspective. You're not a failure. You're this. You're amazing. The whole time you're doing that friend of yours that you've completely disregarded what that person has said.
Yeah. We're making it about ourselves in that moment, as opposed to the first question asking is, thank you for sharing. And why do you feel that way?
But even that, Jeff, even to go in with another question, with this intention to what? Help them reveal something that's going to shift some perspective. How about this? Everything a person says is true, particularly the things they say about themselves, because who would know better? So that same friend comes to me and says, I'm a failure. I say, yes, you are. Yes, you are. And then that acknowledgement there hits the person. What they've just said has been fully received. And then let's play it out for a second. They say, well, actually, it's a bit harsh. I'm not really a failure. Ah, now we get it. Okay. Right. This is counter to the whole coaching thing of like, it's like what a person says is true, and I'm going to really find the truth in what that person says and really listen to them. I'm not here to help. I'm here to just hear. And so in that, in the speaking of that, and for the first time, maybe the receiving of it, they get to feel the full weight of the failure, right? Which plunges them all the way down to the very dark heart of it all, right? And from that place, they can be there for as long as it's necessary before they find the gold themselves and then return to the surface with it, which is that dance of the trickster. The dance of the trickster is the ability to descend and return. And not just return, but then to go upwards as well. To dance in the light and come back down. All right. So you know, it's strange sideways ways of not ever really answering a question straight on, but coming at things differently, to break, to, like you said, to break, to disrupt the ordinary way of doing things. And one of those is conversational conversational agreements that we have to be a certain way, to speak in a certain way with people. Don't say the wrong thing because you could, and if you want to help a person, you got to say this. It's like, nah, if you've got the intention of love in your heart, then you can say all sorts of things to a person to break things open.
I'm curious. As we take just a moment here to navigate into how does a trickster embrace intimacy? Now, it doesn't have to be a relationship. Let's say a relationship one-on-one with a partner, but even with friendships. How does a trickster navigate through relationships, friendships? Are they perceived as, can they be perceived in a positive way, or will people judge them for being a trickster from your experience living in this space that we're talking about tonight? Is it a lonely world we live in as a trickster, or is it a world of where we feel part of? Are we part of, or are we on the outside?
Well, like we aren't tricksters. It's not who we are. We aren't. That's not. It's like an aspect. It's like a. Like Jeff said, like we are all engaging in this now. I mean, the use of this technology and us communicating in this way is that it's
I think what you're getting at is that we aren't consciously doing it. We are seeking ways to do things differently. What you're talking about, Nathan, is doing something differently. Somebody comes to you and says, "I'm a failure," you agree with them.
Yeah.
And if they respond or react to you, because if somebody comes to me and says, "I'm a failure," and I mean, we've probably all had somebody come to us and starts saying that, in some way, shape, or form, they're looking for something to help them out of that. What you're saying is agree with them. Agree with what they're saying that might disrupt that thought pattern. Wow, I'm a failure. I'm a failure. Nothing seems to ever happen in my life. I'm such a failure. And then all of a sudden you hear, "Yeah, I agree with you. You're a failure." If somebody did that to me, I would open my eyes and say, "What?" Right then and there, the trickster's done his job.
Yeah.
It's opened our eyes to, "You're agreeing with me? What's going on here?" And what you've done, what a therapist does, is supposed to interrupt thought patterns. It's about interrupting thought patterns. I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. And then that person, and you say, "Well, I agree with you." Boom, you've just interrupted their thought pattern. Because what they were really looking for was help. They didn't want to feel like they were a failure, but you agreed to them. That could just pause it right there.
And if that person gets offended, then at that point, which can happen, is what you're asking about, Jay. Well, let's talk about projections, where someone can throw something at you, say, "Hey, you're acting in this way, and it's frustrating, and how dare you say that I'm a failure?" I can say it, but you can't say it. If they get offended, and if that offense takes hold deeply enough for them to perhaps exit the friendship or whatnot, it's okay. It's okay, because that aspect of us that holds the intention for healing, growth, and love is able to handle the ego hit of somebody thinking that we're something, or projecting some intention. All right, and so we continue to show up in the way that best serves the person, not in the way that that makes things comfortable all the time. It's actually the training that part of the self that can sit in awkward silence for long enough for a person to feel so agitated, let's say, that they have to fill the space with words, and then they just go, and then they go, and then they unravel, and all the words come out, and you just sit there and don't take anything on, don't ask any questions, just let it all hang thick in the air, right? And then see what happens. But who cares what happens? It's with curiosity. It's like, rather than this intense, heavy responsibility of changing the world, it's like there's like the stories of the trickster in there's like a coyote is the trickster character in many cultures. There's many different tricksters all across cultures and stories. And in one story, Coyote the trickster, they're all up, they're all drinking and dancing to the music and having fun. And then when when all the drink has run out and all the music has stopped and everybody's like falling asleep, and they look up and there's Coyote and he's dancing. He's dancing and dancing and dancing, and everybody's laughing at him, pointing, say, "Oh, look, Coyote's dancing, but there's no music. He's dancing to no music." And he's dancing and dancing. He's dancing to the squeaking wheel of the carriage that's heading out of town. He is dancing to the music that no one else can hear.
What do you make of this, Jay? I'd love to hear your response.
Yeah, I'm paying attention to the board as well, managing all bits and parts of it. Robert Brooker asks, it triggers that inner self-defense mechanism is a question that he's proposed out here. This is coming in from the Future of Health Network. I believe this may be Ian. I'm not sure. But what was said is we have to adapt. When I was making it in the music biz, we had to do many things that would be living as a trickster. That's just his perspective of how he showed up as a musician in the industry. And then he goes on to say, I do believe it's Ian, if that is you, just drop it in the comments. He says, I think being a trickster is part of this life, be it how we do our taxes, how we sell ourselves to others. It's not always with a bad intention. And that seems to be bringing a smile to your face, Nathan. It's always nice to see you smile.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to share this is that now that I'm reading these and thinking about it, and then I'm a photographer, as everyone knows, I remember a specific photo shoot that I was doing with very well-known actor who began the session by coming up to me saying, I don't really like doing photo shoots and I don't photograph very well. And I proceeded to trick the crap out of him that entire photo shoot. And by the end of the photo shoot, I had him on the beach wearing a suit, barefoot, and he was digging it. Now that I think about it, I remember what I did. I don't want to go into the whole story, but I can tell you.
Why not go into the story? Go there, man.
You guys want to hear my story? Fine. So anyway, this gentleman walks in and we're doing this photo shoot for this magazine. We got a big rack of suits. It's all high-end suits, and we're doing it for some magazine in LA. This was back in like 2007. And there was a very well-known, hit TV show that he was on, and he came in and said that to me. And my friend Maria, who was doing the makeup, got all bent out of shape about that. And I said, you know something, Maria? It's easy to love the people who it's easy to love, but aren't we here to love those who it's a challenge to love? I said, I am going to turn this guy out big time. So what I did was we did some warm-up shots in the house that we were shooting in location. And I said, well, this guy's an actor and he's an entertainer. I'm going to take him to Venice Beach. And I'm going to photograph him in front of all of those crazy people in Venice Beach. And I took him down to Venice Beach, and we had the stylist put him in a suit. And we go out on, if you're familiar with the boardwalk or what goes on at Venice Beach, I had him out in the middle of that in a certain spot. And all of a sudden, people started recognizing him. They're like, oh my God, they were calling out his character. He was on a very well-known major television show at the time. And all of a sudden, he started to brighten up. And they were like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And he was smiling and this, that. And my friend Maria, and I'm just shooting. because I knew that was going to happen because he was well known. And LA is LA. LA loves their celebrities and they hawk their celebrities. So I knew that was going to happen, but he's an entertainer. And by getting that, validation or whatever it is from outside himself, perked him up to where he became the entertainer and he started to really get into it. And all I did was sit there and capture it. And then after that, I said, okay, told the stylist we're going to the marina. We're going to Marina Del Rey. Different vibe, but a lot of people did the same thing. And he was, all of a sudden he was waking up and he was enjoying himself. And then we did that setup, and he just shifted, because what was happening is people were recognizing him for his character. And he was starting to get feeling more full with himself because they had recognized his work and his character.
Let me ask you this, Jeff, real quick. What did you learn about
the story, Jay?
Well, and thank you. And the way I want to take you now is share, what did you learn about yourself if you didn't understand it then, but you understand it right now? How did you show up as a trickster in that moment?
I was tricking him into realizing that he wasn't what he says he was.
Beautiful.
Good-looking guy. And, if you want me to finish the story, I can finish the story. I can stop there.
Trust your intuition.
Well, anyway, we took him back to the house and he was buzzing around and he was in a great mood. And I said, all right, dude, take off your shoes and socks. We want to put that suit on, and I'm taking you out to the beach. And we were in Playa del Rey, whole bunch of people on the beach, and I brought a light out to the beach, and he was loving it. At the end of that photo shoot, he was dancing, because what I did was trick him into realizing that he's a good-looking guy and the photos are going to turn out great. And the magazine spread was fantastic. I never thought about it in that context.
Boom.
Up until this show. I remember doing it, and at the end of the show, he was hugging everybody, and he goes, wow, this was so much fun. And he totally shifted by me tricking him, quote unquote, into all of these setups and in different places.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I want to take a moment here. Jeff, thank you for sharing that story. And that's part of why we do Real Men, Real Talk Live, because there are so many aspects of our own self that we just show up and we don't always have an understanding as to the impact that we have or how we are showing up is even on a subconscious level. We are showing up as that trickster, not realizing the impact that we may have. But in this moment, I want to welcome Evis Love back to the studio, and perhaps maybe this was a trick on your part, coming in 43 minutes after we went live. But it's always good to have you back in the studio, and I'd like to invite you to kind of jump in here and share from your perspective. What is being a trickster? How has it impacted your life? Have you ever perceived yourself as being a trickster? If yes, why? And and how has it impacted either your life or the people that you have surrounded yourself with in your life? Not hearing you. Audio's not working.
Can't hear you.
He's being a trickster. One more moment.
You can use sign language, Jeff.
While we're trying to get Ev's audio back on, Nathan, what did you make of what Jeff shared?
I had the image of a photographer taking a picture of a baby and shaking a rattle over his head.
I've done that.
Yeah. You start to open up to this idea, you will see it everywhere. This is how we teach our children. This is how we lead. and it's how we grow in ourselves. Look, it's like, if you've ever done a ceremony to bring closure to a relationship of the past, or some of these spiritual processes or terminology like cutting cords, or these kind of things. This is all working with trickster energy and imagery and imagination, right, to produce some internal shift that ripples out into the waking reality.
That now it's becoming more clear to me, Jay. I mean, doing exercises of cutting cords to shift and let go of certain aspects of relationships. I get it. Cool.
And even those are just aspects. We must beware of the temptation to start boxing in this, what we're talking about here, and to use that word as if it can really define something. It's not like that at all. You'll notice as I'm talking and as we're talking, there's a softening and a deepening and a dropping, a falling. And it's when you go into those deeper layers, we start to really reveal the essence of the inexpressible of what we're trying to convey here. And often it means not answering a question directly, or answering a question with a question, or something. It's just feeling our way into it all, and also what you might be experiencing a little bit of, Jeff, as I sense that, is waking up or opening up from what a society that has actually shunned the trickster for quite some time. Okay, now I can continue on that path, but did you want to try and bring?
Is
that better, brothers?
Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha now.
Welcome home, brother. Welcome back.
Welcome home, man. The energy archetype of the trickster, hey, Nate?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, brother. Look, excuse my absence coming in a bit after time. What you were asking there, Jay. Look, my understanding of the trickster. Look, I've done a lot of stuff around Carl Jung, his archetypes. Really getting into the unconscious, the subconscious mind, and dwelling in these particular areas, where you start to become more, I guess, understanding of what these archetypes and energies are and how they do play out within our lives, and particularly around, the people, places that we start to exist. I see the trickster as a dark energy. Now, I don't want you to freak out and say, whoa, dark energy, what do you mean by that? We, on a duality that we still live in, is all about the dark and the light. And the trickster really comes into people's lives when something may need to be changed or destroyed or shifted or made to transition. And I've found the trickster energy within my life has been, if I've been lost, if I've really had no direction, and I couldn't really find myself in the so-called societal norms. So I found myself possibly in an area that you may know as the trickster energy, trying to nearly, I guess, shift my timeline in a way that may have been deceptive to some people. it may have been, looked at in a particular way where it could have even been a persuasive energy that they weren't even aware of. This is the trickster energy, my brothers and sisters. Like I said, it's a duality energy. And to me, if you want to change stuff within your life and be able to embrace the shifting of these timelines that we're currently in, it's probably no reason or surprise why we're talking about this particular energy here today on the back end of the season of the year. Now, in that duality of the trickster energy, like I said, it is a deception. It can be a dark energy as well. So the trickster loves to tell stories. And funnily enough, I've actually been telling a lot of Dreamtime stories lately. Just came from a school where I'm actually painting their totem poles for Dreamtime stories. Now, we don't talk about Dreamtime. We actually call them dreaming stories. There's a difference. For these stories that I've been putting up, people have actually been saying they're not real. I've been getting a lot of backlash saying that I shouldn't be putting them up. I've been getting people telling me they're fairy tales. I've been getting people telling me this and that. But what I talked about in the production meeting through the week, when we talk about these stories, particularly the trickster energy, these stories allow you to, like I said, be able to embrace and create change within your life. It allows you to go into the deeper parts of that subconscious and that unconscious mind to destroy programs that have been running in the background that may not have been serving you up to this point. Now, for me, what am I currently in, energetic-wise? Man, I'm just in the zone. I would call myself more of a magician. And as Carl Jung tried to say, if you wanted to see the trickster energy in any of his archetypes, it may have been similar to the magician. And what I mean by that is that I'm creating my own timeline, brothers and sisters. When we talk about this energy, it allows you to get out of those societal norms. This is why this energy comes within our lives. So look, man, I could talk all day about it, and apologize again coming in the back end of the show, but I'm actually interested what you have summarized, I guess, to this point about the trickster. And particularly what I'm interested in as well is, how it could play out within, relationships. Because I think, embodying this particular energy, if it can be on the dual side of that energy being a dark energy, how has that looked within our relationships up until this point within our life?
Well, Evis, you've actually summarized what we've been talking about.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was just gonna say that was just, you can go another 4 minutes and take us right to the end. You keep on going because you really did summarize a lot of what we've been talking about.
And I like that you brought that aspect of the darkness, because we've been talking about how the trickster is the one that can move between the realm.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
We lost your audio, Nathan. Nathan, we lost your audio. Can't hear you.
No? Oh, there's a trickster on our stream.
Yeah. Asking us to respond on the fly.
We can't hear you, so while we're waiting for him to get his audio back up. Evis, as you proposed that question, I'm going to invite you to answer your own question, because I put it out there a little bit earlier in the show, and it wasn't one that got answered. How does the trickster's relationships typically go, or however you propose the question out there? I invite you to answer the question from your own perspective right here, Ev.
Because I think what Nathan might have been going to dive into as well, really talking about that dark and that light energy, how it can go into that darkness. Mm-hmm. But what happens is that a lot of these tricksters or these energies potentially perceive a lot of people with that particular energy. And that can be, like I said, the duality nature of this dark and light of the trickster archetype. That can be, I guess, if you want to call it, I mean, you've heard me talk on this show plenty of times. There's no such thing as good and bad. There's just good and bad. So it could be looked at as a bad energy in that regard if you're deceiving people for your own validation or for your own value or for something that you're trying to take from that other person.
A form of manipulation, perhaps?
Form of manipulation.
Okay.
And that can be done through the cleverness of the trickster energy, through the words. It can be done through the tones. It can be done through the pauses. You see, this is how the trickster travels. And this is what I'm saying about the dual nature of this energy that many people, they may not even be aware within relationships. And before too long, you might be blindsided and be left on your butt wondering what the hell just went down.
Yeah, yes. You can hear me now. Hey, yeah. You know, it's like when you, it's like, because the trickster has been suppressed in this culture, the stories of the trickster are gone. Trickster and the thief, and these kind of characters are, like you said to be bad. But you look at any story, any movie, like Marvel movie or any movie, popular movie, Lord of the Rings, for instance, like Bilbo Baggins was a thief. This is like the main character. Thief and trickster are essential characters to help move the story along. Fairy tales, okay, there's the devil character, or the dark one, who comes and presents the miller with a deal. I'll give you everything, all the riches you could ever want. All I want in exchange is whatever that happens to be. And the person says, yes, I want all of those things in my life. And the devil, the sharply dressed man, or the one who appears amidst the smell of sulfur, or whoever it may be, or coyote, or delivers that thing. It's the thing that the person wants, and the person gets the thing and then realizes on the other end. So we say in fairy tales, why did the person have to the witch or the crone comes out of the oak tree and says, eat the red flower, not the white, eat the white flower, not the red flower. And then, of course, the character eats the red flower. Why do we have these things in fairy tales? Why do we even bother to set up these rules when the characters break them or make these mistakes? You're watching a movie and the character makes a mistake and you go, oh, why did you have to do that? If you had just continued, if you hadn't done that, everything would have been okay. Well, then there's no story. Stories begin with a mistake. Stories begin with trickery or deception or something that goes under the earth or gets tossed out the window only to be confronted much, much later. You see? So if we have suppressed that archetype inside us and we aren't able to dance in the trickster, good luck dealing with a female. Right? Because in order to deal with the ever-changing dynamic chaos of being so deeply connected with emotion and words and saying things, you must be on your toes. And if you attempt to answer everything very clearly and very directly and very straightforward, and you cannot embody those little trickster bits, then you're going to be left behind. You're not playing the game, right? So it's so what it is now. I'll just finish here. Is like, how do we reintegrate the trickster, the thief, right? Free from shame or guilt, free from the labels of good, bad, right, wrong, and all of this morality and rules, and actually show up in a way that's truly helpful, truly transformational, and that doesn't always look like doesn't always look like the most it doesn't always look like the right way, or the result, right, doesn't always look like the thing that you want. For instance, if you've ever really wanted something, really knew you were going to get the thing, and then you didn't get it, and that heartbreak, and you say, God, why me? Only 5 years later to realize, thank goodness someone was watching out for me so that I didn't get that thing that I thought that I wanted. Who was watching out for you? The trickster on the inside that was saying, no, that's not for you. And I don't care about your human personality, ego, Nathanness, right? As the soul, you're not getting that thing, and deal with it. You'll thank me later.
Interesting. I want to put this up on a board because Evis, I'm going to invite you as we're one-on-one over the hour here to wrap us up by breaking this down. What do you make of this comment by a female coming off of what Nathan just shared? She said, "I am a trickster ninja." This is Jeannie Cash. Welcome, coming in from Missouri. There is absolute no way I can be tricked again. Strong, wise, in caps, female, loving energy. What do you make of that, Evis Love? And Jeannie,
Love you,
thanks for
Jenny.
having
Love
the
you,
courage to
sister.
share that. Thanks for putting that out there. This is your perspective of how a trickster has maybe not served you in your life, has maybe hurt you or harmed you. Ev, what do you make of all this?
First of all, hey, Jeannie, how are you, my sister? Sending out all that loving energy to you. But I'll quickly ask Nate, can a trickster be tricked?
Well, I would say that someone who believes that they can't be tricked are in real danger of being tricked.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That puts a pretty bow on the show.
Yeah.
Right then and there.
I mean, if you blasted open to the idea of trickster, then you invite it. It's the dance. It's the game that you play. You use it. Everyone uses it for their own, to recover from a former hurt, to learn a lesson and to come back. You got to do some form of self trickery anyway. So anyone who believes that they can't be tricked is a perfect mark for a con man.
Which is the trickster.
Because they'll never see it coming.
Yeah. Which is why I'm asking for Jeannie, because she says she is the trickster, the ninja. There is absolutely no way she can be tricked again. So strong, wise female with that loving energy. And what I'll say to that, my sister, I love how you said tricked again. Because when I talk about these dreaming stories, one of those dreaming stories that I talk about is a particular monster. Now, that particular monster at the top of a mountain that's close to here in a Wabakal country, that monster could serve as your bad thoughts. It could serve as your doubt. It could serve as your disbelief, obstacles, challenges, worry, concern, whatever that may be. Now, when we go into particular gatherings or we go into particular ceremonies, we were always told to never go out of a particular bounds, to stay on that campsite with our other brothers. And if we went outside of those bounds, then that particular energy, that monster, let's call it the trickster energy, may be just watching for you and swooping up to you with no warning at all. So as a young fella, 20 years ago, when I was invited to actually illustrate for these same dreaming stories, that monster scared me. It gave me fear. I didn't even want to go to the area that they talked about that monster. 2 decades later, my sister, that fear has turned into freedom. How do I say that? You see, our dreaming stories, they teach you lessons. They teach you a set of rules. They teach you values. And if you've ever been tricked by a monster, by some sort of fear, obstacle, illusion, deceit, manipulation, whatever it may be within your life, the fact that you've come out on the other side and that you have now learnt the lesson to stay within that light, to stay within that campfire. At the end of that story, it talks about you reaching the top of that mountain. For you, my sister, you have reached the top of that mountain. And as I've always said, on the other side of that fear is freedom.
And with that, I want to take a moment here to thank Nathan Meola for jumping into the studio tonight to break down this topic that for many of us in this country we call the USA, if this is where you do call home, this is a very unusual topic. The fact that both Jeff and I had to even Google to have a greater understanding of it. Perhaps there's a somewhat of a cultural differentiation here from over in Europe, over in Australia, from what we're accustomed to. It doesn't always have a negative. There's some very positives that come out of being a trickster, as both Nathan and Ev have shared this evening. And on that note, viewers, thank you for joining us this evening. And or if you catch us on replay, let me share this with you. You showed up right on time, divine time. And with that, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this week on another episode of Real Men, Real Talk.
Real live.